Last time on the FXNT Modpack, I raided a bastion for netherite. And a netherite smithing template. Amazing. I also stole some villagers, stealing villagers with a jetpack. And I built 5 mobile farms on a train. These 5 mobile farms on this train, which isn't actually a train yet, doesn't have an engine to actually pull it, and none of these farms have any power in order to be able to run them, to test them, to make sure they work. So did I really make 5 farms on a train? Well, kinda. That means today I'm going to be getting these carriages all connected and working, and a train to actually pull them, probably some track laid to another location. But more importantly, I'm going to be generating power for free. Free power, really easy, like I have never done before. How hard could it be? But before we get to any of that, there is a very important thing I need to do, which involves me throwing some saplings into a mixer with some water to make pulp, pressing down that pulp to make cardboard, so that I can craft up a handful of name tags. And with these name tags, I'm gonna name my villagers so that if they get zombified again, they don't despawn if I'm nowhere near. So we're gonna have Walter, Peter, Olivia, and Astrid. And if you know the reference to that, let me know in the comments. Now, anyway, there are other things that need naming. I, of course, have my 2 wolves and my horse, but for me, that's your job. Let me know in the comments what you want these guys to be called, and I'll pick my favorite ones from those comments, and we'll get them named in the next one. So, infinite free power then. How's that going to work? Well, it couldn't be simpler. All I need to do is go over to my little blaze farm that I've been AFK at for a very short amount of time this morning, grab myself some goodies, and with these goodies, I can craft up ender tanks. There's one. And I run out of ender pearls again. Oh, jeez. Walter, I need your pearls, bro. Thank you very much for 12 pearls. And with these, I'm going to have 2 more of those. Excellent. We've now got 3 ender tanks and no wool. Hang on. Guys, I need to make some string to make wool. Pinch a bit of this flax, turn it all into string, and then just turn all of that string into wool. There we go. We've got a healthy supply of wool again. Right, free power. That, of course, is going to involve yet another trip to the nether, but it should be a relatively safe one today, because here in the nether, I already have most of the things set up for me to be able to use this. We already have a system down here that I put in place in the last episode to steal lava from the lake and put it into a big tank. But why put it into a big tank when I can put it into a tiny tank? There we go. We'll just fill this ender tank up here. I should have colored it in really before I started doing that, but I guess we'll have white for this area. And I'm assuming this is an endless supply because it's a big lava lake, but I haven't got any goggles, so I can't really tell. There we go. Engineer's goggles. And if I put those on my head, I'm hoping, because these are made of gold, that's going to appease the piglins, because I don't have curio slots in this pack, which means if they're not going to work, then I'm going to need some gold trousers or shoes. Hello, sir. You having a nice time there? Now, before I dash back to the nether, I just want to point out that all of the ender chests on my train start with a black dye first. And the reason for that is, basically, I'm saying anything that goes on my train has a black dye first, and then I know it's for my train. So that ender tank that I've just placed needs to have black dye first, because it's not for my house, it's for my train. And because lava is orange, I'm going to have black dye, orange, orange. There we go. So now that's going to fill up all over again, because technically that's a different tank, but apparently it's not going to fill up again. It does say this is a bottomless supply, though, so that's good. But for some reason, that's not filling. Let's remove it. Yeah, okay, lava definitely coming out of there. Let's pop it back again. Yeah, and there we go. Now it's going to fill up. So this is going to just constantly be filled with lava from this lava lake. Oh, and I need to check these goggles. Do goggles appease the piglins? Well, let's go find the piglin fellow. Piglin fellow. Are we okay? We are. The goggles work. Fantastic. So now we've got an infinite supply of gold in the nether. I no longer need this big old lava tank in here, so let's just get rid of this. And that can go into my little bag of contraptions. Now, all I need in order to get lava is one of these ender tanks, put the right color code on the top of it, and now that's going to have as much lava as exists in the nether. And it's got a spinny thing on the front. I don't know what that's for, but I guess we'll find out. Now, in order to get the lava out of here, I'm just going to put a depot there. I'm going to put a pump going into the top, a spout above the depot, and then I'm going to replace that pipe there with a pump, and then I'm just going to connect that to power. which is all the way over there. And there we go. We're now powering that, which is pulling the lava out of there, and you can see it's not filling back up again. I've used a bucket of lava, but it should be filling up, right? Because it's got an infinite supply in the nether. Wrong! It's not going to fill up because the nether's not chunk loaded. Now, in a lot of the mod packs I've used, we've used chunk loading mods before. I'm happy to use chunk loading in a single player world because there's only me here. So having a few chunks loaded here and there really isn't going to cause a problem. But I don't have a chunk loading mod on this series, so I could set up some sort of vanilla chunk loader. But the main reason I haven't got a chunk loading mod on this series is because, well, chunk loading's very simple. You might consider this a bit cheaty, but if I hop into the chunk that has the thing, oh, of course this is in a separate chunk. Wow. Well, we'll sort that out in a minute. If I hop into the chunk that contains all the things I want chunk loading, I just have to do one command, which is force load, add, and my location. And then that force loads this chunk. Now, if you consider that cheaty, just bear in mind, normally I've got a mod to do it for me. It doesn't cost any money. It doesn't cost any resources because I use the FTB chunks one normally. And you could be saying, well, you could use create power loaders and then it's expensive because you've got to capture a gas. Well, I would, but it doesn't work. I used that on a just create SMP a bunch and I had no luck with it at all. Things would sometimes chunk load, sometimes they wouldn't, but more times than not, all of my items just got deleted. So I'm going to use the vanilla way of doing it, the way the developers intended. And if you don't like that, tough. But yes, we do need to move this hose into the actual chunk where the stuff is. So let's just remove that for a second. Let's grab that. This is going to be technically quite dangerous because I've now got to try and dig down into the lava, and I'm hoping because that's connected it'll still work. It will. It's still considered a bottomless supply. So now that that's all successfully chunk loaded without adding extra mods that just add weight and poor optimization to my mod pack, when we pop back home we should see that this ender tank is now full. It is, but it's also gone invisible. It says it's full. That's weird. Okay, well, let's just fill a lava bucket up and see if it disappears. Nope, it's still full. It works. So now because of the Ender storage mod, I don't need to go to all of the effort of, well, filling in a massive hole full of lava somewhere in the world in order to get infinite lava. I can take this infinite lava with me wherever I go, specifically on my train. And once again, you might consider that a little bit cheaty, but this is one of the reasons I chose to play with the Ender storage mod. I've made hundreds of infinite lava sources the create way, the base way, and I just want to do something different this time. And doing it this way is going to allow me to have a fully powered train wherever I go, assuming that I build a carriage with a steam engine on, of course. But I won't. No, I'm not going to add any power to this train at all. This train is not going to be powered unless it's parked at a station, because of course, in order for these farms to work, the train does need to be dismantled. So there's no point in having its own power station on there. I'm going to have power stations at the station and then feed this thing electricity. And the Ender storage mod isn't the only thing that's going to make making power a whole bunch easier for me, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, I need to make steam engines, which is going to be tricky because I have almost no copper and almost no gold. Tunnel bored time again. In that case, we'll go back down the mine a little bit until we get to the area I was digging out that's not in the deep slate levels. Just in here like this, and this might be low enough down to get gold. Minus 64 to 32. That yes, there'll be a little bit of ore in these walls, so without further ado, let's take a leaf from Mr. Beardstone's book and steal his music. Don't do it! Don't steal his music! I steal it! There's nothing you can do, Beardy! There's nothing you can do! You can't stop me playing your favourite mining song! That's a lot of copper! And a bit of gold, and that means I can start crafting these steam engines. So let's grab ourselves 9 steam engines. So I've made 10. A bunch of tank, a pump, and a handful of empty blaze burners. And with these blaze burners, I need to click on my blaze spawner, which I think is just behind this wall, if I'm just about right. There it is. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I just need 9 of you, thank you very much. And then you can have your wall back, thank you. And now I need to think about where I'm going to make this power. You see, if we're going to be powering our train, we really need the power station to be somewhere near our train track. And therefore we could disguise it underground, but I feel like it would be more interesting to have like a structure over here that's providing the power, and we'll try and make it look as electrical generatory as possible. possible. So I guess let's start by placing down a bit of a foundation. Then on here we can pop down our 9 blaze burners, build a big old tank on top of those, and then on the front of those we're going to add in 9 steam engines. Then all I'm going to do is dig down underneath these blaze burners, throw down some pipe which will all attach to the blaze burners, stick on a pump, and throw down my ender tank, giving it the correct dies, of course. Now this is where things get a little bit more cheesy, because don't forget, steam engines need water in order to make them work, and while we've got water here and we could easily pump that into that with some water wheels or something, I've been told in the comments there's an easier way, and that apparently is due to the faucet from the supplementaries mod. If I make myself one of those, grab myself a single leaf block, pop that on the top of our boiler, and then waterlog it, apparently I can just pump water straight out of that into there from that. I guess I need to turn it on. Oh, there we go, we've got water. And I only need apparently 4 of those for a full-size one. So let's stick 3 more faucets on the sides of this leaf block here. Give them all a twist like that. And now, as you can see, the water level in our boiler is plentiful. That is ridiculously cheesy. I can't believe that worked. Okay, so we just need some power to this pump to pump into there. So let's craft ourselves up a water wheel, grab a little bit of water from there, stick a cog on top of that with a shaft there and a water wheel there, and then all I need to do here is remove these, tidy this up a little bit, add a few more blocks to the back of this, something a little bit like that, and then pop some water in there, and that should get the pump going, and hopefully that pump will pump lava into the blaze burners quick enough to keep this thing going, and it looks like it will do. But if we're going to make this look like some sort of electrical system, then I think it makes more sense to, instead of having the water wheel there like that, to actually bring it round here and have them vertical and build some system around those and then get them spinning, well, that way. I'm not really sure what happened there. I just sort of slipped into replay mode. So what we've got going on here is a big old mess of things that don't need to be here to try and make it look nice and like a little electrical generator. At the sides of our boiler, we've got these 2 generators, which are powered by the steam engine. So this thing's fully self-powered. However, should this thing become overstressed at any point and not be able to power its pumps in order to get the lava in, i.e. those 2 shafts stop working, then these engines will continue to spin and continue pumping the lava in regardless, because underneath these are 2 little water wheels that are just powered by 1 block of water. Everything above them is just for show. I've added in those flywheels that we stole from that place up there, and I've added a crushing wheel at the top just to make it all look a little bit more interesting, and by connecting them to these bits here, we can actually power this thing itself, giving us a massive 130,000 stress units. Okay, it's not exactly a million or anything, but it's going to be plenty for this, and hopefully it will be plenty for the train. But in order to connect the train, I need to create motors. And electric motors require mechanical crafting and a whole bunch of things I haven't made. But motors just turn the electricity into rotational power. I've got to turn this rotational power into electricity first. And for that I need an alternator, which again is more mechanical crafting and more things I haven't made. So I guess I've got some crafting to do. The first thing I'm going to need to craft is a rolling machine, and that's to create copper wire. And then we use that copper wire to create copper spools, and we also need empty spools for that, but they're pretty easy. And the other things I'm going to need to craft are capacitors, which again are relatively easy, and iron rods, which again we need the rolling mill for. And the rolling mill is a relatively easy recipe itself, so that shouldn't be too difficult. However, before I start crafting any of those things, I think it might be a good idea to make a whole bunch of shafts and run some of that power underneath underneath these farms and into here so that I'm not just relying on the water wheels to run all of this stuff, and I can actually get all this going a bit quicker. And for that I need andesite alloy, which I'm just mixing up right now, and then I can make a whole bunch of shafts and do some digging. And after not too much digging, I have actually arrived right near our power station, but now I'm popping out of the ground, which I don't really want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig straight down underneath this thing, go down a couple of blocks, and then go across this way and try and meet up with the tunnel I've just made without making a mess of the above ground bit. There we go, there's my little tunnel. And there we go, my water wheels are now completely redundant. All of the power is coming up down there, and if I move it back a block, just like that, now I don't need to go up outside of the house quite as much. And now with everything reconnected in the house, including all of the basement stuff, and everything running at full speed, we have 107,000 stress units left, so still plenty. And we've also got a nice big basement area down here that we can decorate nice and easily to add in a whole bunch more machines, which might be useful because one of the things that I keep running out of very regularly is andesite alloy and casing, which is getting a little bit annoying. Well, I may have got a little carried away again. The basement is done and full of things. There's no room in here left for anything. We've got our smelter and our washer with filters to say anything that can't be smelted and anything that can't be washed is allowed to be in here because it's finished being smelted and washed. Here we have a mixer which has got a blaze burner in it, which is being pumped from our infinite lava source. And basically what I can do here is just put a load of iron nuggets into that barrel, a load of andesite into that barrel, or even copper and zinc, and generate a whole bunch of andesite alloy and brass. Lovely. And in here, yes, oh, look at all this andesite alloy. Plentiful supplies now. This source strips logs that come out of there. They get pressed by the andesite alloy from the deployer and they go into there. And I got a few comments earlier in this series saying I could easily automate tree bark with a mechanical saw from Create. You cannot. You cannot get tree bark from a mechanical saw. You need to use the Create Slice and Dice mod if you want tree bark. This gives no tree bark at all. I'm just saying. And the final machine in here is, of course, our track maker, because we're going to need a whole bunch of track if we're going to be extending our train track to a new location. And this machine can be configured and changed to make all sorts of things, like precision mechanisms and stuff like that. So it's very handy. So now that I've finally got a whole bunch of space back in the house again, it's time to get crafting up those things to make the stuff. Starting with the rolling mill, which I'm just going to hook up over here, stand on top of and throw a few pieces of copper sheet into it. Do half a stack, and that's created 64 copper wire. Now I need to throw in a few iron ingots, but not too many, and that gives me 20 iron rods. Then I can craft up a handful of spools, craft up a handful of copper spools, and then I can craft up a bunch of capacitors. And that gives me everything I need to craft an alternator. So let's go craft one. And there we go. And that should make me an alternator. Yes, it did. Now, just going to make some motors. And hopefully I've got everything I need for those as well. And there we go. We've now got 8 motors. Next, I need to craft some connectors. Because in order to connect an alternator to a motor, I can't just click them both with wire. And we could either make small connectors, or we can make big connectors, and we can even make small connectors with a light. I think big connectors are going to be the best. That means I now need to throw some of my precious gold into this rolling mill, grab what little slime I've got, and that'll allow me to craft 22 of them. But I don't need 22. I'm just going to grab 16 for now, and then that leaves me a little bit of slime left. So now we've got our alternators and electric motors, we can now connect them to our power system and make electricity. Let's see how this works. So we're going to stick our alternator onto the front there. That's generating a whole bunch, actually. That's not too bad. Then we stick a connector on there. And then if I come over here and stick a motor onto there, stick a connector onto that, and then connect this over to the alternator, I need a high current wire. What? Connects to low current connectors, connects to hot, so I need gold or electrum. How do you make electrum? Crush down tough to get electrum. Not much of it, though. It's going to be... I don't want to spend any more gold too expensive. Oh, jeez. Okay, gold sheet. Into the rolling mill you go. And that means I can craft 10. 10 gold spools. So I hope I don't have to do much more wiring than that. Okay, let's see if we can connect these things again. We'll connect one end to here, and we'll connect the other end up here. And there we go. Our gold car is able to actually go. Oh, wonderful. Now, how much stress can we get out of this thing? Could I put that on full speed? No, I can't put that on full speed. But I don't actually need the speed controller here because this can actually control the speed as well. But then that drains the electric out of that pretty quickly. So I wonder if I could like add a secondary connector onto there and get more electricity out of it. No, I need more stress going into the alternator. But is that because that's not going very fast? If I was to connect that to a faster speed, would it get more energy in it? Let's stick on a speed controller on there, pop our alternator on there, give this mini speed, and now that is generating 360 energy per tick. Oh, okay, so it is speed based. So if I turn that right down, yeah, nothing there. I get the feeling we might need more than one alternator for this setup. Let's throw that on there, and there we go. Now we can have it running at full speed. No, we're using 480 power. We're using 480 energy per tick. Okay, what if I turn this right down? Let's say we turn the motor down to just 16. No, then it overstresses everything. Okay, let's put the motor on 128. That uses 240 per tick. And that's on 128, so that works. If we put that up to 256, that works. Okay, well, that's interesting. What if I now move that down to 64? That's using 120 per tick. What if I turn it down to 32? No, it has to be, I guess, at least 64, which is using 120 energy per tick. But then I'm allowed to then increase the speed of everything with the speed controller to 256. It doesn't make sense, but I'm going to work with it. And no, that's not where the motor is actually going to go into on here. We're going to have them above the carriages, but I haven't built that yet. As I stand here AFK at my very, very rudimentary basic blaze farm that apparently isn't collecting all of the things it's generating, I've been thinking about all this electrical stuff. Do I really need it? My idea to power these using electricity is more just for the fact that I think it'll look nice having wires running along the top and make it feel more, well, like an electric train. But in reality, that's going to make life significantly harder for me than if I was to just use SU, as in rotational power, running along the top of this. Now, the reason it needs to run along the top and not along the side is that when we glue these things together, anything within the box that is glued is going to become part of the carriage once the train's assembled. And when I drive away, it's going to basically break from whatever system it was plugged into, which is not ideal. And the reason for that is these half steps. These half steps actually count as a whole block, so anything within that space is going to get stuck to the machine. And that's why I want to power these things from above, because the top layer of glue on these carriages doesn't go any higher than a full block. And none of the things do either. So if I had a shaft going into there, or a motor or something, that's not going to become part of the carriage once it's assembled, because it's not within the boundary of the glue. And just to show you that again, if I stick that on there and hold the glue, you can see that is within the boundary of the glue. But it doesn't need to be electricity. It doesn't need to be wires. It could literally be just some girders or some sort of support structure with some shafts going between them, occasionally diverting off, power going down that would line up with wherever we're taking power in on our carriages, which is similar to what I'd use if I was just using the connectors and the wires. And whilst the connectors and wires look relatively nice, the wires are ever so thin, so you can't really see them very well, and they're very expensive as well. And having motors on those as well, they still need connecting to the support structure somehow. They don't have to be like this. I could actually do exactly the same thing we've got going on there. Have the motor a little bit higher up, and then just a shaft sticking down below it. And I'm not sure if that'll actually get any electricity from that because it's not technically touching it. But we could definitely do something with this. So I'm a little bit torn as to what to do. So I think the best thing I could do is just spend a little while playing with this and seeing what I can come up with. So I guess it's time for me to spend a little time figuring this all out and then showing you what I've done. Well, not too long into me figuring all of this stuff out, I've just realized we've got a massive problem. So if you remember back many ago when I was first designing my little rail system, I was using pumps and pipes in order to add the cobblestone and the water to our iron farm. Using pumps and pipes and tanks, I can basically get the water to spit out when I want this to be active and retract again, so that when I assemble the train, the lava and the water doesn't spill out. But all of you guys in the comments said you don't need all of those pipes and pumps and things. You can use dispensers, which is exactly what I ended up doing. Dispensers to dispense the water into leaves, which works perfectly. If I press this button here, all of the water goes away so that I can assemble this into a train. And the same thing happens on the other side with the lava. However, you might notice that the lava is now obsidian because I shouldn't listen to anyone. I should do it the way I was planning on doing it in the first place. Let me show you what happens when I disassemble and reassemble this train. The redstone is not powered. In fact, I'm going to remove the redstone altogether just to prove this is nothing to do with redstone. Let's get rid of all of the redstone from this, and I'm even going to get rid of the button. Right, now when I go to assemble this cart, by clicking the assemble train button, you'll notice that all of the water spills out of the train. And then when I go to disassemble it, all of the water goes away again. For some reason, don't ask me why, but when you assemble a train, dispensers will fire out their fluids if they've got any in the buckets. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it does, which means I cannot use dispensers at all for this cobblestone generating train carriage. And that's a big problem. Oh, geez, why do I listen to you? Every time I listen to you, this is what happens. Jeez. Well, not every time. Occasionally when I listen to you, this happens. Jeez. So I guess before I do anything else, I need to actually design a cobblestone generating carriage that doesn't break every time I assemble it. Back to the drawing board. Well, it's taken some doing, but I think I've done it. We have had to lose one cobblestone generator, meaning we've only got 5 instead of 6 like we had on the old one, but I've managed to squeeze it into a very tiny space using science. No, I'm using a method I didn't really think about doing before. You see, the problem is, if you want to be able to waterlog and unwaterlog this leaf block, you're going to need 2 pumps, because it doesn't matter which way the rotation goes round, the pumps have arrows on them. So you need one for pushing water in and one for pulling water out. That means if you want to do this vertically, you could have your pumps on either side of the leaf block like this, and then you're going to need pipes, and then both of these ends of pipes are going to end up needing to stick into some sort of tank to hold the stuff. And basically there you go, you've got a system that you can use, but that is 5 blocks tall. I need to make it 3 blocks tall. And the way I've managed to do that is to be a little bit smarter. Obviously, I'm only using 1 pump for 5 lots of pipes, but really my pipe should need to go across then down. But because copper casing exists, I can cheat. If I tried to build this over here without copper casing, this is what would happen. I'd have my pump there, my other pump there, and then I want my pipes to go into the leaf blocks, but I can't. So the only way I can get them to go into the leaf blocks is to place them like that, then make them glass, and then add the other ones in, then make those glass, and then I can put my pump back on, which I had to remove to get the pipe the right way round. But now all of those pipes are not going to connect unless I do that, which means that by the time I've finished this structure, it's going to be 5 blocks tall. In order to make it 3 blocks tall, we don't do any of that. What we do is we remove the leaf blocks, we add in some tanks down here to make all of the pipes connect both down and horizontally. Then we encase all of those to fix their positions, and then when we remove those, the pipes are still facing down and across, meaning that when we pump fluid in, they're going to come straight out of there without requiring 2 lots of pipes. So that's how I was able to get everything I need in a 3 block space. Obviously, the bottom pipes are all the way through the carriage in order to make this fit. And the reason it can't be 6 cobblestone generators long is because we need room for the belt underneath, which is removing the cobblestone. In order to remove the lava and the water, I'm using these clutches at the back here. We've got inverted clutches, meaning that the pumps are not running unless I need them to run. The drills are running, but the pumps are not. And when I press this button over here, that's going to run the pumps that retract the lava and the water for around about 10 seconds, allowing it to all drain away. and then when I press the button on the other side, it's going to run the other pumps, which eject the water and the lava, allowing it to start generating cobblestone again. So when I want to turn this into a train, I press that button there, wait for all the water and lava to be sucked away nice and safely. And assuming this had an engine to pull it, which it doesn't, so for now I'm just going to put some train controls and a seat on it, I should then be able to assemble that into a train without anything spilling over the floor, which is ideal. And then I'll be able to get in my train and drive it away. And look, it all works perfectly, and my power doesn't go with it because that's not part of the glue contraption. So when I approach the next station and I want to get this powered again, I just come down here and I disassemble the train. That will make everything go, and then I press this button to eject the water and the lava into the system, and hey presto, we are now creating cobblestone. That was hard work. And there we go. The tangent of having to rebuild the cobblestone generator all over again is finally over. Kind of, because I haven't actually been able to plug this thing into power to test if it works, so I guess that's where I'm up to again. I have now glued all of the train carriages together, so they are ready to assemble into a train, but of course that's no good until I've actually tested that they all work. Jumping forward a little bit, I've now moved the train onto its own separate track, and I've built these little girder structures with a power line running in between them. I've not connected it to the power yet, but the other thing I've done is actually spun round some of the carriages so all of them will end up having their power going in exactly the same point. The reason I've added all of this to a completely separate track rather than our main track is that our main track is going to allow the trains to go in both directions, but I want this to be able to stop no matter which direction it's going. So if the train is coming along this track going in that direction, I want it to be able to pull into this siding and connect to the power and disassemble, and likewise if it's coming from that way and coming down this way, again I want it to be able to pull into that siding and connect to power. So this should work regardless of which way the train is facing, because the distance between the power sections is always the same distance, and that means all I've got to do now is actually just set up the bits where the power goes in on each of the carriages so that they meet up with our little power connectors here. And that's when once again things got a little bit complicated. You see, our cobblestone generator here has a belt inside of it which always must go in the right direction, otherwise our cobblestone isn't going to go into our storage system, it's going to come out and back up along this belt. That means we need the power going into this carriage always in the same direction, and that could be a problem mainly because we've got this power line going through all of these gearboxes constantly changing direction. So really, we need to be able to make sure that the power for that belt is going in the right direction regardless of the direction that power is coming into it. The rest of the stuff on here doesn't matter, like the drills and the pumps. Neither of those are direction specific, so it really is just the belt. And I spent a good while trying to figure out how I was going to implement that on this carriage, and then it hit me. I need even more speed controllers. Now currently every single one of these cars has a speed controller on it, except for the cobblestone generator one because I designed it without one. And they all need them because they've all got belts, so I can't steal one from any of these. That means I need a new one. Unfortunately for me, I have one precision mechanism left. So let's just craft one of those up and just have a little bit of tinker time with this cobblestone generating car. I'm going to need to get rid of quite a bunch of this stuff and then take that out of there and put the speed controller in there right next to the belt. Now I do need to be able to adjust the speed on the speed controller, which I can't do because there's too many blocks in the way, so I'm going to have to remove that. I'm going to set that to maximum, although I don't know which way around it needs to go yet, so we'll leave that open for now. Then of course that needs a big cog on it, and then that big cog can then literally just be reconnected to the drill section here where our power is coming in from, and then when I flip that round there, that will all kick into gear and you can see the belt is going in the right direction. So that's excellent. Regardless of which way the power comes into this now, that belt is always going to be feeding out that way, and I can prove that by flicking this lever here on that gear switch, changing the direction of the power going in, and we'll see that the belt still goes in exactly the right direction. The problem is now though, I no longer have a button to be able to to dispense the lava and water into this carriage. So I need to put that back on, which is going to make this thing look a little bit ugly now because there's not much room for it, but it should work. We'll just throw that on there, throw our pulse extender on there, set that to 5 seconds, then our redstone link on there, and I believe this one should be train case in an empty bucket because this is the one that empties it out. So there we go, we've got those on there now, and then all I need to do is stick the button on there, and now if I press this button, we should fill up with water and lava and start generating cobblestone, which we are, and that should start going in here, which it is. And then if I press this button, that should take away the water and the lava so that we can assemble the train and drive it away. So there we go. The cobblestone car is done. Don't worry about us having the train controls and the seat on here. That's just for testing. Of course, I'm going to be building an engine for this thing soon. And that means all I need to do now is come across to our gravel making car and then just make sure that this all goes in the right direction. And because this already has a speed controller on it, that's going to make life significantly easier. But yes, look at this thing go. It's working perfectly. The question is, though, when I turn this back into a train, is all of that cobble just going to fall all over the floor? Only one way to find out. Let's keep our eyes back there. Assemble the train. And, oh, it just vanished. Oh, well, that's not too bad. I don't mind it just vanishing. For some reason, when you assemble the train, things do keep moving, even though the power's not connected. If I remove this power completely, you'll see they still go. I think that's just a little bit of a bug when you're turning kinetic things into contraptions at the moment. But, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And we actually don't need that gear shift on there anymore. We can literally just put a shaft on there, and we can now drive the train away with all of those things still spinning, but not actually processing anything at all. It's just a visual thing. Good news! Everything is now connected and working. All of the train cars are running in the right direction. They're all producing things, but there, of course, as usual, is a problem. And the problem is we're just not making enough gravel. We're actually generating quite a lot of cobblestone. If I hop over to here and have a look in the ender chest, you can see we're actually accumulating more than we're using, which is nice. What that means I really need to do is actually make this gravel farm completely differently. Well, I say completely differently. It's going to be probably identical to this one that can generate a lot more items more quickly due to the fact it's using crushing wheels. However, before I do that, I kind of want to see how much power this is all using. And behind me, we have, oh my goodness me, hardly any left. Why is my capacity down? My capacity was a lot higher than that before. Has something become disconnected? Oh, is it because I'm pinching stuff from that? No, it's all still connected. Why is it saying I've got less capacity? Is my steam engine not running? Oh, it's saying I've not got enough water. So my little faucet thing is not working quite as well as I thought it might. That's weird. Let's just quickly throw another one of those on there then, and then at some point I'll actually add proper water going into this thing so that we're not relying on these things. Yet again, a lovely comment that told me how I could make things better. That doesn't work. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, mate. Anyway, now that we're going at full power, yes, we've got plenty of power left. That's great. So, modifying a gravel machine then. Always modifying. But apparently, if I use crushing wheels, not only do I get the gravel, I also get nuggets of experience as well. That's weird. I didn't think I'd get any nuggets of experience for it, but now knowing that, that means this is also going to generate XP, this train. And just a few minutes later, we've now got another crushing wheel car, this time producing gravel, not sand. And of course, I've got the XP filter set up at the front here. We're using the double compacting drawers to make sure that we're only sending through blocks of experience into the ender chest to save some space. And that should be producing us a bunch more gravel than we were getting before, which should hopefully mean, oh, a sand, I guess, is full. Yes, it is. So that should hopefully mean that we're actually now producing some sand and iron. Let's have a look over here. There's still, oh dear. What have I done? I broke it. Let's just see if that happens again. No, it opens this time, but yes, there's a little bit of gravel in there, which means these things should be able to actually start getting gravel in them now. And it looks like there is gravel in there. That's good. Excellent. What about the sand one? Are we actually using any of the sand? The sand chest is full. It looks like there is soul sand on there, and I guess, yeah, the soul sand chest is full, which means we're just not producing enough gold or getting through enough of that soul sand to actually get through that soul sand. But the question is, why isn't anything coming through and it's probably that something is sat on the belt that shouldn't be there. So if I click that, yeah, for somehow there's clay in there. I think the server might need a restart because I've had that a few times. Somehow or other, there was clay and sand in my original iron farm blocking it up when I loaded in today. And even more weirdly in here, I managed to get crushed raw copper in my composting system. And that's not even close to where my crushing wheels are. So yeah, somewhat weird going on. I'm going to restart the server and hopefully that will fix those issues, because we don't want this thing just stopping generating stuff every few minutes because it's got the wrong thing in it. So the server's restarted, and just to make doubly sure this thing doesn't send anything other than soul sand through onto this belt, I've added a smart chute instead, which actually means we'll be getting stacks of 64 at a time through instead of 16 now, which should significantly improve our output of gold and quartz. Everything else seems to be working quite nicely, and hopefully that means we're actually getting through some of this cobblestone now. Still seem to be generating more than we're using. Let's check the ender chest. Yep, that means I can actually speed up the gravel and the sand. And now we should be blowing through that pretty quickly. So there we go. Our little train is almost complete. It just needs an engine to pull it, and we need that so that we can move on to the next area. So back to the creative test world I went, and I toiled away for around about 2.5 hours, doing my best to come up with a design I really liked and thought suited our industrial train carriages. And eventually I was able to take a schematic of the finished engine, hop back over to the actual survival world, and then start crafting absolutely everything I needed to make this train a reality. But of course I couldn't build a locomotive yet because I needed more track. So I spent a good while landscaping the area and throwing down a whole bunch of it at both ends, linking it up with the rail we've already got. And with all of that crafting done, it was time to blast the train into existence with a schematic cannon. And there we go, my train is ready. And doesn't it look beautiful? It's a big old beast. In fact, it's so big, it's not actually going to fit underneath the electric things that I've built, so I'm going to have to modify those slightly in the future. But I wanted it to be big. I wanted it to look impressive and like it could actually be able to pull all of these things, and more of them when we build them in the future. And it does look a little plain with all that industrial iron, but I wanted to keep it simple and industrial looking. So I've added a few little details here and there to make it look, well, not quite so plain. And if we hop into the back, we've got all of the things we need. We've got a potential driver, because I've got some ideas for this being my personal train and having my own personal driver, but we'll get to that in another episode. We've got a little burner here, which is obviously powering the train, and some hatches that do absolutely nothing, to give you the idea that we're shoveling coal into there from the coal car that I didn't build. We've got a little bell that we can ring. We've got some other bits and bobs. We've got some rail up here to hold on to. We've even got some industrial iron chests, or should I say weathered industrial iron chests for keeping things in. And I've even got a little spot for my backpack, which is nice. But there is one block on this train that I need to get rid of, because otherwise every time I dismantle it, it's going to break the track. And that is this block here. We can't have that block. It's in the way. So rip that block. That means I can rejoin the track and actually have this thing on a train track. And now if I assemble the train, I've got too many bogies. I'm not allowed 4 but I want 4 bogies. It looks nice with 4 bogies. I don't want to stick flywheels on it. So looking at the config, I was hoping I'd be able to change the max bogies per train car, but it looks like I can only do it for the entire train, which is a bit annoying. But how many bogies am I allowed? I don't want to get rid of any bogies. I like them all. If I had to get rid of one, I guess it'd have to be that one there. But can I build it now? No, I'm not allowed more than 2. Well, then it's gonna look stupid. Surely there's a way to modify this. I mean, if we get rid of that one and make that one like a 2-wheeled one and move it back a bit, that might work. But it looks silly now. Now, there is another way to do this, but I don't really want to do it, and that is actually to split the train into 2 parts. When it's on a straight track like this, it'll look like one train, but it will look a little bit silly going around corners as the front bends away from the back. And I know with the Steam and Rails mod, I can have all sorts of different bogies that kind of get around this issue. Well, that's not available for this version of Minecraft, so we're going to have to do double gluing and have a bendy train. So now we've effectively got 2 locomotives pulling our train. But they're not connected. They're separate. Let's give that one more try. Let's just glue that to there. No, not allowed to do that. Okay, there we go. Adding flywheels does the job. We don't need bogies. We've got flywheels that won't turn. They'll just slide, but that's absolutely fine. However, that does mean we've now got a couple of little holes in the floor in here and a flywheel or 2 sticking through. But let's not worry about that. Let's see if this thing actually drives. Assemble train. It worked. It needs a name. Thoughts on names in the comments, please. And now I'm going to sit in this little seat here. I'm going to grab the controls and we're going to see if this train actually pulls all of these carriages. And here we go. It's working. It's pulling everything. It's working. This is incredible. And I just need to get off it a second and then switch the track so I can go back again, and then run all the way to the front so I can get back on the train, and then sit down and grab the controls, and now we can go back through the other way, scraping a little bit on the power system that I've added, but we'll fix that. If I hold space to approach the track station, we're now pulled in at the other station, and none of our power is in the right place. So I guess I've got a little bit of work to do. But that work and the rest of this track is going to have to wait. So if you want to see this train going on a journey to somewhere new and building a whole bunch of new things in a new place, then you better watch the next episode.